Welcome once again to another edition of Tax Watch, brought to you by the concerned taxpayers of Duval County in cooperation with Comcast Television. We thank Comcast for making this time available so we can talk with you about the issues of local government. My name's Tony Bates. I'll be your host for today's show. Usually we talk a lot about government issues and legislation and how the government and the city council spends your tax dollars. Today, in the first part of this show, we're going to talk about crime in the streets and molestation of citizens and police tactics like those of Syria and Iran and Libya. And to do that and help me with this discussion is John Winkler. John has just been elected to serve as our president again this year. John, thanks and welcome to you. John is a practicing attorney here in Jacksonville, along with all his other citizen activity, and he practices just general law and has some extra credentials in tax law. John, once again, welcome to the show. Congratulations on being elected to lead us again this year.
Thank you, Tony.
And John, our new president, this is the 18th of January as we're taping this show, and John, as a citizen, had a personal experience last evening. Our president was mugged, so we're going to have a little conversation about crime in the streets. I had a little bit of experience of being surveilled by our local police just because I was attending a meeting. So we're going to relay those experiences to you, and then we're going to move on into a follow-up of some information about our last month's show when we talked considerably to you about JEDC. And since then, at that time, even after we brought you all the information about JEDC, we indicated that there had been an audit by the city council auditors of that organization, and we were expecting the release of that audit any time. Well, it has been released, and we're going to follow up on that issue some after we get through our own personal, what we would call human interest stories that we think you might be interested in. John, come and kind of give us an idea of, I just heard about this morning when you called me about the show, and I didn't even get a chance to read your second email because your first was so urgent about getting here, but the fact that you had gotten mugged last night.
Well, I live in Riverside, and as I think most people may well know, Riverside Avondale has been nominated and considered to be one of the top 10 walkable neighborhoods in the entire United States. And just about any time of day from, say, 6 in the morning until close to midnight, you'll find people on the sidewalks walking their dogs, jogging, bicycling. I mean, it really is a neighborhood where people feel safe, and I think probably most of the time they are safe. But my wife and I were going for a walk, as we do virtually every night, and at about 10 o'clock, and while we were walking, we were passed by a group of bicyclists, 100 of them. They were on some kind of crazy night ride going through the neighborhood. And we had seen lots of other people that were still out. But not 45 seconds after the last of the bicyclists went by, we were coming up to the intersection of Cherry Street and Riverside when we saw two guys sort of dressed, they almost look like monks, because here are these guys in these dark hoodies walking down the street. It was a warm evening, so there's no real reason why you should have a hood over your head unless you're up to no good. And obviously these guys were up to no good, because as we're coming up from about 50 feet away, the taller one shouts at me, "Give me the money. Give me the money." And not only did I not have any money, but I didn't really understand why anybody would be saying to me, "Give me the money." So that was my answer. I said, "I don't have any money," and the guy comes up pointing something at me. Now my wife saw that it was a gun barrel. But he's a punk. He's a kid. He's like a 17-year-old white kid. Obviously has managed, because he's there with his buddy, to sort of scare himself into doing this. But he comes on up to me, says, "I'm serious. I'm serious." I then noticed my wife was gone. I don't. She vanished because she took off in the other direction to try to get help. He then tries to reach over and grab my wallet out of my back pocket. Apparently, I must have reached back to stop him because I got cut here. I have bruises along here.
Yeah, I saw all the black and blue you showed me a while ago. How he had attacked you and physically assaulted you in addition.
Well, yeah, and then evidently, well, not evidently, he was holding this gun in his left hand. He swung around with his right hand and hit me here. But again, if the kid weighed 140 pounds, it was a lot. So I mean, that wasn't enough to take me down. Although it sent my glasses flying and I'm sure I'm legally blind now. I don't know what I was looking at that point. But so the other kid had to come over, the two of them. I mean, I almost felt like an elephant being taken down by jackals or something. It took the two of them to manage to push me down. All this time, he's trying to get this wallet, which is stuffed full of receipts. It has no money in it, but I have a lot of plastic and paper in it. He's still trying to get it out of my back pocket. I'm thinking the guy's going to wind up ripping my pants open in order to get it out of my back pocket. But he eventually does manage to get my wallet out of my pocket as they're shoving me down. But in the process, he drops this plastic gun that he was using. And they run away down an alleyway. And 2 feet from me is this plastic gun. I call the cops.
Did he get your wallet?
He did take my wallet.
He didn't take it?
He did take my wallet. So he did in fact, manage to get my wallet.
Oh my goodness.
So until 1:30 last night, I was calling, financial institutions, canceling cards, and reporting this as stolen. After we were there for 2 hours waiting for evidence tech to come and collect the gun, and the policeman, and they get the gun. Well, they consider it armed robbery, even though it's a toy gun. And it's in Jacksonville. I mean, let's face it, kids. You get out with a plastic gun, you have to get yourself killed, because that's happened just this week. That a kid, carrying a toy gun managed to get himself killed. And this policeman said, and I can understand it perfectly, he's not going to stop and ask whether or not that's a toy. He's just going to take care of it, as I'm sure our immediate past president also would have, who has a carry permit, unlike me. So as it turns out, they collected that gun. This particular policeman who gave me this victim's guide had been assigned to Jacksonville because this is the third time this has happened in 6 days, and with the same suspects. They're almost certain they know who it is. These are a couple of guys that apparently are inmates at a juvenile facility that's in Riverside that I was unaware of until now, and they had gone missing and were out prowling the streets, and every couple of nights they've been picking on folks. Apparently the last two just surrendered their valuables without any dispute. I was too ignorant and had nothing that I considered valuable to give them.
So you think they have an idea of who it might be?
I think they're absolutely certain that they know who it is.
John, I know on Comcast, on this public access channel, they do have a police show who gives advice, and they try to help people with ideas and thoughts and solutions and talk about catching criminals, and they also give people advice about how to be safe. Did these police officers offer you any advice or comments? Did you learn anything out of this experience that we should let our viewers know about?
Well, obviously, my wife's approach, which was to run from door to door, banging on the door, asking for help, does not work. I mean, the people who were inside, one of them later came out about an hour later, and she saw the policeman and wanted to report that somebody had been trying to break into her house, which was not true. It had been my wife banging on the door trying to get help. That apparently, obviously, gets people to, they become frightened by that. Fortunately, because like I say, there are a lot of people out walking their dogs and jogging and what have you. Within 2 minutes of this happening, my wife came up to a couple who had a German Shepherd and another dog who came over. But they were out. So if you wait too late and there aren't any people around, then you're going to have a problem.
What time of night is this?
This is 10 o'clock.
In what area? Now, everybody's kind of familiar with, I know where you live. You never live near Willow Branch Library and Park and
right. This is on Riverside Avenue, where Cherry Street meets Riverside Avenue. If you're selling your house, you call it Avondale, but if you're buying it, you call it Riverside. It's
okay. Well, I'm just trying to see if there's anything helpful that we could. But it just tells you it can happen anywhere to anybody, and anything about that you feel in retrospect you could be more observant in the past about what's going on, or was it just it got you so instantly that there was nothing that could have possibly prevented it?
Once years ago, we were followed by someone who obviously intended to rob us, but we were on a much darker street, and we got away from that just by almost outrunning him until we got to an apartment complex. And then ran up and acted as though we were going into our apartment. So we avoid dark places. This really was apparently on their part a crime of opportunity because it's well lit. I mean, it's Riverside Avenue at 10 p.m. is well traveled by pedestrians and cars. So these were teenagers who obviously had not learned to lurk in the bushes and wait for less observant people. I don't go to those places. I stay out of those areas. Obviously, I'm going to dress down. I mean, I think part of the problem was that by wearing suit pants and nice shirt and what have you, that you look like you might have money. That might be a problem, obviously. And after that last incident, for the longest time, I did not take my wallet with me when I went out walking. It was really stupid of me to take my wallet. I regret that I took my wallet because, like I said, I spent, the next couple of hours after midnight calling people to cancel cards.
Yeah, that's always the biggest issue there. I occasionally misplace, and I carry no cash. I carry a bank card. I carry no cash, but it's all the information. I've got a lot of information that without trying to reconstruct all that.
Exactly.
Well,
I'm
sorry you had to experience, John, but I'm glad you came out of it okay. And it's strange that you find some individuals following you and meaning to do harm, and it was strange that just last week that I'm followed, I'm surveilled. I've got somebody taking pictures of me for no reason with a video cam, and what made it so strange that it was being done by the police. I'm in a meeting attending the police pension negotiations about the impasse that's going on. I'm in a building at the FOP headquarters on Beach Boulevard. I'm in a building with nothing but police and administrative officials and negotiators. And I'm just an observer sitting at the meeting. Now, it is true the concerned taxpayers have had a suit about this pension issue. We're in a lawsuit about the Police and Fire Pension Fund Board with the FOP, which you're very familiar with. And we're in court with them right now over what we considered illegal activity by having negotiations without having them in the sunshine. At least that lawsuit has now caused negotiations to happen in the sunshine. The last 2 sessions of negotiations about the contract have been publicly noticed, and people have been able to attend. But at the end of the meeting, I'm walking down the hallway. Oh, it's probably 100 feet from the end of the building, and I sensed I was being followed. I turned around and looked. Sure enough, one of the police officers and one of the men that was sitting at the negotiating table is following me with his video cam, taking me. Well, I run into one of our board of directors meeting in the parking lot named Rod Morrill, our legislative affairs director, chairman, and he and I stopped and talked with him. There was a television station, mobile unit out there. They were broadcasting live from the parking lot. The reporter was talking, so I stopped and talked to Rod, and we were talking with Connie Benham on the telephone, and she was going to publish that the meeting for the following day had been canceled. And so I started walking to my car. Well, I sensed I was still being followed, so I walked on past the car, and Rod said, "Tony, isn't that your car you just passed?" I said, "Yeah, just keep on walking. We're being followed." So we walked on deeper into the end of the parking lot, and this police officer still following us. And I told Rod, "Go ahead and get in your car and leave. I'm going to go back inside." Wanted to double check to make sure this officer is really following me and videotaping me. Well, I go on back inside, pretend to go to the restroom, ask him where the restroom. I wait 5 minutes. Well, I don't come out for a while. Another police officer comes in. Well, when he comes in, I go on out. Well, evidently he didn't have anything to do because he comes right on out. I go back out the door, go to the parking lot. Yes, sure enough, I'm still being followed. So I turn around and brought back inside. And once I get back inside, I confront the officer. "What is your purpose? Why are you following him? Why are you videotaping him? Why are you trying to taking a picture of my automobile to get my license?" "I was just trying to protect you." "Oh, protect me from what? There's nobody here but police officers. Who do you think is going to harm me?" So I walk on back to the rear of the building where the negotiating room, people are still there, and I present this to Nelson Cuba. "Nelson, why the
president of the FOP.
Of the FOP, why are you having me followed? What's the purpose of having me surveilled and take me and trying to get my license plate number?" And he says, "Tony, I'm just trying to make sure." No, that wasn't him. That was police officer. "Tony, we have this done to us all the time." And I guess maybe all this is true, and I guess legally they've got every right to do that. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure whether it's appropriate action or not. But it just seemed to remind me of Iraq or Syria, Saddam Hussein or Omar Gaddafi, or those where citizens who are demonstrating, and the police are trying to surveil them and then to try and punish them. Nothing's happened to me, and maybe it just didn't kind of set right. It just didn't seem that that's for no cause whatsoever other than being in attendance at a meeting, that they would have, that would be public policy of the police department. And I still don't know yet where to go with the issue. But the only reason we're passing that on these 2 different human story incidents, that isn't really what we're all about here to talk about. And I don't know if there's anything more to say about this, John. And if not, we'll move on to some other issues.
Well, obviously, the police consider themselves here to serve and protect the public. And obviously last night I was not necessarily being successfully protected up front, but the officer who was there had been assigned to Riverside as an extra officer simply because there had already been 2 of these crimes in the last week. So there is extra police protection that was being made available. And there were half a dozen cars out looking for these punks. So that obviously is the public function of the police. Now, there can be an argument that they make. For example, you and I have both been at city council meetings where dozens, if not 100 or more, police officers will turn up in order to make a presence, and have as much as been accused of being present for the purpose of intimidation by the city council president. I mean, that was just a couple of months ago. I certainly know of instances regarding the Occupy movement where there were investigations going on from the Sheriff's Department's Homeland Security Unit that I found to be ludicrous in terms of the suggestions that were being made about what these folks intended. I mean, I've never seen a more peaceful exercise of free speech in my life, and yet suggestions were made that were, I thought, just flat out crazy. And that's as part of an official function. We have every reason to encourage and believe that the First Amendment rights of police officers should be protected, absolutely. But I am offended when police officers wearing uniforms and 10mm Glocks attend the city council meeting en masse, where there's crossover between that official function and their exercise of a political statement. And I think it's completely inappropriate under every circumstance. Just like with this attempted intimidation of you at a sunshine meeting. That's a very dark cloud in the sunshine at that meeting. And frankly, you know, this is the kind of thing that ultimately will create a lot of public displeasure with their public servants here.
Yeah, I think those things are having an effect on the goodwill that the public has always had toward police and fire. I think that's been. I understand their concern, or the Council of Presidents' concern, when he made his remarks about intimidation, something council, but that other than the fact that they might have firearms, that really just didn't concern me, because it seems like they were doing no more as a group than what sometimes we try and encourage citizens to do. And in some way we try to identify ourselves when we collectively try to sit in a group together. So that part to me just seemed like they were using their normal citizens' rights for their particular issue, and in a very effective way, and maybe in a more effective way than we try to do it in our way. So that issue really didn't concern me, other than because we had a lot of discussion within the group, within our group discussion via email discussion group, and about this, and it was the particular thing, I guess, that only wound up concerning us was firearms being brought into bill. I think that's them doing that was just the same as what we do, I think. So.
Well, yeah, the T-shirts don't bother me.
Yeah, right.
You know.
So, and then we started the little other type things. So, oh Lord, look, gosh, it looks we've been in this human interest thing so long. Let me quickly. We got to move on, John.
Yeah, talk about the JEDC, please.
Quickly, The audit has been released. We brought you a lot of information about the joint economic development, fishermen, and corporate welfare, and then giving your money away. Concerned taxpayers have always been opposed to this issue because government never does things efficiently. I don't know if you've read the newspaper lately or what you've read, but there were a few things like in the TU reported. There is a stench coming from City Hall, or the order of neglect and needless waste of your tax money, that they call that a stench, and it's evident in this audit. I guess we're going to have to wait till next month to bring that to you, but it just said, and they even indicated that it extends maybe outside the agency itself to some of the other people that are involved. It went on to talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars that weren't accounted for, or the people that were supposed to provide jobs here in Jacksonville, and they were paid in this incentive, your tax dollars to provide jobs here in Jacksonville, and then come find out they were putting people out of town, the people that they employed in their corporation, out of town on the corporation, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is only a real small drop in the bucket. We'll try and get to this maybe at another show to bring you the exact details in case you've missed it. But we're trying to encourage you to contact your council people. Tell them they need a deeper look. We sent 6 or 7 questions to the auditor to ask them to look at. They only got into one small area because they're limited in what they can do. But the council can ask them to take a more extensive look. So we want to encourage you to talk to your council people, ask them to take a thorough look at JEDC. John,
and they also only looked at a few of these projects,
yeah,
not the hundreds that are available.
It's like polling, you know, and they talk about this is only a sampling of 5 out of hundreds, but it's like polling. You only do a small sample, so and round into millions of dollars worth of waste. John, what I would like to maybe in this last couple of minutes, what do you see in mind for concerned taxpayers for next year?
Well, what I'm hoping to do, and what we have hoped to do in the past, and with some limited success, is obviously issues like the JEDC, the qualified tax initiatives, corporate waste in general. This is an issue that affects everybody, and whatever your particular political stripe, this is something where we can all join together, and so for whether you're a Tea Party activist or you think the Occupy movement is you know where we need to go, call yourself a progressive, a conservative, a Republican, a Democrat, it doesn't matter. Everybody should be opposed to the lavishing of public resources on favored corporate interests. I mean, there's just absolutely nothing about it that isn't corrupting of the entire political process and destructive of the democracy. It really is. And we can start at a local level, which is what we got. I mean, all politics ultimately is local. And so I want to urge everybody, whether, as I say, whether you consider yourself an occupier or a Tea Party or in everything in between, it all joins together. And concerned taxpayers want to go point on this.
Well, welcome back to the helm of the concerned taxpayers, John, and also to our new elected Vice President, Curtis Lee. Joe Andrews continues our treasurer. Victor Wilhelm will be our secretary, and we have about 6 members of the board of directors, including myself, Conrad Markle, Daniel Carr, Rod Morrow, somebody I may have missed, but we've got to wrap up now. Please join with us. Go to our webpage, www.jackstayers.org, and search out our information. We've got to go now, but we'll be back next month with more issues. Thank you, and join us then.